Hello, everyone. This is Steve Baker, the Pragmatic Constitutionalist. I am in Tampa, Florida today. I'm actually here at my daughter's lovely abode here in Tampa. And tonight, I am going to be at King Corona Cigars and Cafe for the very first TPC road trip meetup. Scott, yeah, and you're in Tulsa as usual, right? You're just
I
hanging out
am.
there. Well,
I am.
you're going to eventually join me out here somewhere, aren't you?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to come down to Texas. Definitely be Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, and maybe Kansas City. So just
I think
a
you
little
should
spice.
I think you should at least make the effort to drive down to Joshua, Texas. I just like saying Joshua, Texas.
Joshua, Texas. That's
Yeah.
pretty legit event that's being set up there, right? Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that?
I'm excited about all of them, to be honest, because I'm just excited to see everybody and put faces and voices to names that I have been encountering all these years through the Facebook page and now the blogs and everything else that we're doing. But that particular event is we're making it kind of it's like a civil disobedience speakeasy out in the middle of nowhere, uh, kind of thing, and it's a private event facility that's not even really open yet,
Okay.
and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So this is
so
like a soft opening almost.
yeah, but the picture, if you go look at the picture on the announcement on the event page, it's a really cool place. I mean, it's like really, really, really well done up and quite spacious. And they're doing, they're catering it for us for an incredibly nominal fee. I mean, they're only charging if you want to eat, so you can come for free if you want to, but if you're going to eat, you get 2 meats and 3 sides, barbecue, Texas style, and for only $15. And that's, of course, none of that's coming to TPC or myself or you or anybody else. That's
That's a
just to
good.
take care of
That's a
that.
good deal. That's actually really reasonable in barbecue.
It's ridiculous. And it is a BYOB event because he's not open yet. He doesn't even have an alcohol license yet. So it's a private event. So bring your own bottle, bring enough to share. Eat if you want to. You can prepay. Just go to the event page and you can prepay for the $15 there. And I understand that it's a little bit outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. It's about 25 minutes south of Fort Worth, and that's from the center of Fort Worth. But the reality is we got to get away from the COVID cops and not have to worry about who's poking their nose in our business and what we're doing. And then we also are not competing against anything this particular holiday season. We're competing against very little anyway. Most of the big corporate holiday events are canceled or scaled down and that sort of thing. And so this is on a Thursday night, December 10th, next week, and just really excited about all of them, as I said, but that one's going to be particularly fun. So, whether you're coming from Dallas or Arlington, Fort Worth, Plano, wherever in the metro area, get your butt in a car and drive to the event. It's going to be worth it. And I'm going to be at all the events. I'm going to be covering a few minutes of commentary on current events, things that are happening that day today, and then obviously what's been going on with the election and commie virus 2020. And then additionally, I want to really get into the purpose of this road trip, which has been more or less stimulated by the financial devastation that people have been subjected to by the lockdowns, B, the fact now that we are in increasingly ever intensifying on a daily basis cancel and deplatforming cultures by the MSM and by our social media accounts. And so which brings me to the final thing that I'm really going to be covering, and my purpose is to talk about more and better ways for us to network, stay in touch with one another, get the information out to one another that we're going to need to, because we just don't know where this is headed. We don't know how far and deep these guys are going to go down. Because look, we're all jumping over to Parler now. We're all jumping over to MeWe. Not leaving Facebook. I keep saying that. I'm not leaving. They're leaving me. It's like Reagan said about the Democrats. He goes, he said, I didn't leave the Democrats. The Democrats left me. Well, guess what? I'm not leaving Facebook, but Facebook has left me. And I never have ever seen numbers like these numbers. These numbers that we're experiencing now with over 35,000 followers are the equivalent to when I had 300 followers back in 2011,
2010.
10. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can hit a post now and come back and look at the reach, and 4 to 5 hours later, anywhere from 70 to 200 people have even seen it out of 35,000. It's
The
ridiculous.
amount of throttling, and well, I guess the opposite way to look at this, Steve, is that you're keeping people employed at Facebook. Their developers and the algorithms and the throttling that takes place. It's a lot of effort that takes place to limit.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Scott, is that all of this was pre-planned. I mean, as we talked about on the last podcast, the New York Times came out last week with to me, it was mind-boggling that the New York Times covered this, but it was also one of those rare moments of actual journalism on their part, where they covered the fact that this was prepared, this was pre-planned, this was an initiative that was designed for the express purpose of how Facebook was going to handle post-election. What's the term they used? If there was a contested election, then this is how they were going to handle it.
Yeah.
And what they did is they took the knob and turned their throttling knob, up to 11 is exactly what they did. And then suddenly everything was just being things that were, they're not, well, let's just not call it fact checking anymore. They're opinion checking now. And the thing that really caused them to slam the hammer down on me, and the thing that we've been appealing, and I've been appealing almost on a daily basis for 3 weeks now, almost 4 weeks now. The thing that I've been appealing on a daily basis is that that Danish mask study. We've talked about this before.
I know.
Yeah.
Science, science,
Well,
actual science.
Right. Let's take an actual quote unquote peer-reviewed study coming out of Denmark, and the Spectator. That would be the British Spectator, not the American Spectator magazine. It's like we say the the British Open, and the Brits say the Open. Well,
The Open. That's right.
Yeah, the Spectator covered the Danish mask study. And the fact checkers didn't ding me for what I said about it. They didn't ding my commentary. They actually accused the Spectator of saying something the Spectator never said in the article. And I got throttled for it. So as a result of that, our numbers are way down. It couldn't happen at a more inopportune time with the road trip going on, and our inability to boost posts and let people know that we're going to be in that particular community, people that follow the page. So our ad account's completely deactivated.
Let me encourage everyone listening, or the few of you that might be listening, because of big tech and the throttling that's happening. If you have you're seeing this on social media, any kind of social media account, share it with all of your followers, all of your friends. Okay. To help break out of the throttling algorithm that they have, to put it in front of new streams and have people comment on it. Don't just share it, but then actually write a comment underneath it stating, hey, this is really interesting, or this is really sad, or hey, you should go to this event in Joshua, Texas, or in Ybor City. Do that, because that helps shift things, because they create code based on a certain scenario. And if you break outside of that scenario right now and put it in front of your people, and you lend your voice, and then somebody comments on that's outside of the normal stream, that's predictable. And so keep doing that, because we need that. We need that right now more than ever.
Yeah, and I'm asking them every single day right now, how long is this restriction? I mean, okay, so you've slapped now it's turned into a triple secret probationary, restriction, and they won't tell me how long. They won't tell me if this is for 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, forever. Is this a permanent thing? I have no idea.
Mm.
And, as much as I've heard other much larger voices that have been not yet been deplatformed, but have been throttled and had their reaches drastically restricted as well. I'm talking, big ones with millions, like, the Blaze or other types of, alternate media voices like that, particularly the ones coming from the liberty side of, the
Yeah.
left right scenario. But they have been for months talking about this, and they, even with their size and the amount of money that they spend in terms of building their enterprises, and they spend they spend tens of thousands of dollars a month with Facebook, and whereas I have in 10 years, I've spent a couple of tens of thousands, with Facebook. I probably in 10 years spent between my bands and TPC, I probably spent about $25,000 with them. So I'm out of pocket. I have spent money to reach and build and expand that presence. And despite the fact that I've paid in, they now just arbitrarily come in and say, okay, yeah, you paid to get that audience, but we're not even going to let them see it now.
Yeah.
We're not going to let them see you. In fact, we're not even going to let you even give us more money so that you can break through and see them. Yeah, that's how intense this is. Well, I've been hearing about this, for months, coming from the bigger players out there, and it finally worked its way down to me after the election cycle, because I wasn't getting this. But boom, as soon as the election was on, and as soon as Zuckerberg enacted his plan, which was developed, basically a year ago, according to the New York Times story, then boom, 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 we were just throttle, triple, deactivate, boom. And that's where we are. So that's a horse that we've, beat to death for the last couple.
I wish it would go away. I wish the horse would go away.
I just think everybody should know about it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't know who makes these decisions, if it's Zuckerberg or if it's a committee or if it's he takes a vote of his thousands and thousands of employees, but it's becoming more stupid every day just to use the platform. I don't even know, well, of course, obviously most people aren't admins, but it's becoming so unwieldy on the admin side to even use the platform. All of the improvements, all the updates, everything that they're doing, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's beginning to remind me of MySpace. just say it. And then, so not only making it more difficult with all of these, let's face it, the thing that attracted everybody to Facebook 10, 11, 12 years ago, when there was the mass exodus from MySpace to begin with, was that it just did what you wanted it to do. You got to connect with people. You got to network with people, your friends, your family, your old school chums from 30 years ago, whatever it was. Even putting up a band page, it was so easy to promote, concerts and events and things like that. All of that is just, immensely more difficult and insanely more time consuming. And now you have to virtually pay for everything that that you want to do to reach people on Facebook. So it's becoming more difficult to use by factors of 100 compared to the way it was 10 years ago. But now they're just running us all off. And now they're just saying, oh, yeah, but now we're not even going to let you do that, because we're just not going to let you speak. We're not going to let the people who want to hear from you or know that you even exist anymore. And I get that every single day. So that's where we are. And so, like I said, we beat that horse to death, but it's important that people know that. It's important that that today could be our last day there. I just wrote something, posted it just a few minutes ago, and told them if they didn't like it, they could suck my blank, blank, blank. And so there's going to come a moment where they're going to default, they're going to say bye to TPC on Facebook. It's going to happen. It could be today. It could be, 6 months from now. So I'm encouraging everyone to go find us on MeWe, find us on Parler, find us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're still on Twitter. I've never developed Twitter, but I'm finally, since all this is going on, I'm finally trying to do something on there every day. I'm not excited about Twitter any more than I am about Facebook right now, but find us at our new locations, and then by all means, subscribe to our newsletter. Go to the pragmaticconstitutionalist.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and be sure that you're able to get that direct link to us. And then what I'm going to be talking about here beginning tonight in Tampa, and then on the road as we go from here to Louisiana, to Texas, to Oklahoma, to Kansas City, to Minneapolis, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, and back to North Carolina. So what we're going to be talking about on this run is how better to network and stay in touch with one another, because even though we're on Parler and MeWe and these new, more liberty-friendly platforms, there is no guarantee that the people that host those platforms are not going to one day turn that switch either, because somebody has control of that switch as well. Just like somebody has control of our switch on the pragmaticconstitutionalist.com. And we know who has control of that switch, and we're a little bit afraid of them right now.
Yeah. And it extends across
Yeah.
different platforms, different forms of technology. Again, it's reminiscent of Orwell.
Yeah, it is. We're going to have to find better, more connective ways that are not as reliant upon the technology that we become, imminently reliant upon. I mean, it's our lifeblood. I'm a live music performer and have been for 40 years, but I can't even get people to show up at the room now without technology. They've got to know you're there, right? Well, where do they go? They're not subscribing to newspapers anymore, so they're not getting paper editions of their entertainment guide stuffed into the middle of their Sunday edition of their newspaper, where, as we did 30, 40 years ago, that's where we went to see and find out who was coming to town, who was going to be at the Coliseum, who was going to be at the theater, who was going to be in the downtown dive bar rock club. That's where we looked for that information. Well, nobody does that anymore. They go online to get that. And if we're being booted offline, we're going to have to find a better way to find one another and to stay in touch and to support and motivate and to alarm when the alarm bells need to be rang. Somebody's got to be Paul Revere out there and let them know.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, what does that look like now in today's? I mean, do you have to get on a horse?
Yeah, I'm on my horse right now. It's a Hyundai, but it's and it eats unleaded gasoline, but I'm on the horse right now. So that's what we're doing out on the road. And when we finish this run, I'm going to retrench for a few days back in Raleigh. And then I think we're going to head to the Northeast. Although, it's kind of silly going north during the middle of the winter, isn't it?
Yeah. And also, this is when cold season actually cranks up as well. So you're going to the most densely populated at the worst time. Maybe you should look out west.
Maybe I don't care.
Well, I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, maybe I'll go west.
Concerned about your health for the flu, not COVID.
Right. But we'll make that decision here pretty soon. Probably as this tour develops and we're able to better analyze, what we're doing right, how we're getting to people, how we're not getting to people, and what the response is, that sort of thing. And then we'll make the decision about where to go next. But yeah, I don't mind getting on the horse and heading all the way out. That's it's my thing. I've never had a problem living out of a suitcase. So
no, neither have I. And I come back that honestly too. So
exactly. we both come at it from the same direction.
So
with that in mind, I'll just comment on a couple of things on my journey down here to Tampa. I actually am a little bit blurry-eyed. My daughter and I have been staying up every single night late. I got here on Friday night about 1 a.m. and we sat up till about 4 a.m. Chatting, and we've made a habit of that for the last 3 or 4 nights since then, doing exactly the same thing, staying up all night, and it's great. She's not just my daughter; she's one of my best friends in the world and closest confidants, and we've been doing this with one another ever since she was, in middle school and writing papers, and I'd stay up all night and help her write. And then as she got into high school and the papers become longer, and she was in the, IB program and they became more intense, then we would stay up till literally 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. She'd go get in the shower and go to school, finishing up these long thesis papers. And then even when she was at UNC Chapel Hill, there in the People's Republic of Chapel Hill, I continued to help her through that process until one day I'll remember, I don't remember whether she was in her 3rd or 4th year of college. I just looked at her one day and said, Stormy, you don't need me anymore. You're there. I don't have anything to give you at this point except, wow, good job. Mm. And so it's awesome now to be able to be on that wavelength with your own kid, and then have that relationship to be able to stay up and talk about these things. And we're very much aligned. Even when she was at UNC Chapel Hill, she was a member of the Young Adults for Liberty, the YAL chapter there at Chapel Hill, and eventually became the president of that particular chapter at UNC. So we have
proud papa.
Yeah, I am. We have a lot to talk about, and we don't mind spending all night together, sitting up and chatting and such as that. But on the way down here, it was a little bit surprising because I had been down here in this area for a wedding about a month and a half ago, and so I knew that Florida had basically reopened for the most part. And of course, South Carolina had always been much more open than North Carolina had been throughout most of the entire, COVID process since, March. And when I hit South Carolina and I stopped at a couple of the big, truck stops, I absolutely stunned at the 99.9% compliance at the even the big rural truck stops that are packed, because they're they're like they're mega. It's like a truck stop mall. You know what kind I'm talking about. You got all
Absolutely.
the food, the food vendors and the every type of every imaginable type of beef jerky you can have. It's like a mall for beef jerky at these places. And anyway, so they're and they're packed, and there's long lines at the coffee places and everything else on I-95, and everybody is masked up, well, except me. And nobody's saying anything. Nobody says a word to me.
Yeah.
But I'm going, wow. And it was not like that a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
This recent resurgence, and I only, subject myself to a couple hours of NPR every day. But I wasn't I guess it just had not registered with me that even in the rural areas, how much they had ratcheted up the fear messaging over the last few weeks since the new flu season has taken hold. And of course, now that COVID is the flu of the 2020-2021 season. So now that we're dealing with that, and all of the even places where there's not regulatory or executive order mandates, people are I mean, it's the entire trip down. Now, I will tell you, I hit Georgia. It seemed to be a little bit more lax. I made a point of stopping in each state. When I hit Florida, it seemed to be back up again, which really, really surprised me. And then when I got here, my daughter wanted me to make my world famous gumbo for her, so we went shopping on Saturday. Went to the Publix just a mile or so from her place, and when we walked into the Publix, here in Florida, where there is no mandate, at least there's not a state mandate.
No, there's not. DeSantis, the governor, is actually a really good guy.
And it was 100% minus me compliance in the Publix. And that was irregardless of, did I say irregardless?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's actually a word now.
I know it is. I was just going to say it's a word now. So, like me. So irregardless of the fact that, or whether they were, 20 years old or, 45 or 60 or whatever, everybody was masked up. And I just was stunned by that. And then last night, man, I decided to go down and spend a couple hours working where we're going to have the meeting tonight at King Corona Cigar and Cafe, a really nice Cuban cafe place, and has all of your favorite adult beverages. And if you decide to partake in the Sacred Leaf, that will be available tonight as well. So I went down there to work for a couple hours, and the place was mostly empty. There was, while I was there for the couple hours, there were no more than 4 or 5 other patrons in a fairly, large facility. They had 3 staff members there. None of the staff members were masked at all. None of the patrons were masked until about an hour into my visit there. A young man, probably 30-ish years old, he comes and he sits down straight across from me on a high top table. He's about 20, 25 feet from me, facing me. I mean, he's looking straight at me, sitting on his high top table. He's got, has beer. He's got cigar. He's got his laptop. He's working as well. He orders a sandwich, and and I'm not paying attention to him. He's just straight across. I've got my laptop going. He's got his laptop going. We're minding our own business, doing our own thing. The only thing that was recognizable about this guy is he was 32 to 35, somewhere in there. Very, very well built young man, obviously a gym rat, and very healthy. And all of a sudden, just because of the movement over the top of my laptop, I noticed that he was getting up. He stood up, and so my eyes, looked up, and I caught him as he stood up, and he strapped his mask on, and then walked 20 feet the other direction to go to the restroom. And then he came back to the table, and now I'm just staring at him. And he sits down at the table, and he takes his mask off, sets it down to the side, and proceeds with his. And now at this point, he notices that I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I couldn't help it. I just shook my head and wow, like that. And he had to know what I was thinking, because nobody in there was masked. There was no need to even make an effort to social distance. It was a Monday night. The place was basically empty. None of the staff is masked, but he himself, at a 99.9998% chance at his health and his age of survivability, felt it necessary to mask up, and walking away from his beer and his cigar to mask up to go to the restroom and not even walk past a single soul in order to do that.
That's amazing.
But that's how programmed they are right now. And, so that's the beginning of my observations on this trip. Let's just say that they will intensify after tonight, and we see what's going to happen as we meet in groups, rather large or small. And we're going to get some video, and we're going to get some photos, and hopefully I may even get some interviews.
That'd be great, man.
Yeah, with some of our long-term followers, I especially would like to do that. And as always, and as I always say, I learn more from our followers, our readers, than I do from any other sources, because these are grassroots Americans. These are patriots that are living life every single day in the middle of all these circumstances right now. And I get so much more into my inboxes, my private message boxes, the comment threads. I learn more from those sources than I ever do from any of the mainstream or even alternate, I get news, I get information, I get certain details, but I get real life from the people that we interact with every day. And so I'm really looking forward to, as they say, pressing the flesh is what they would normally say, but I guess in these socially distanced times, we'll be elbow bumping or whatever we're allowed to do.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's great, man. I'm excited. I wish I was there. That's one of my favorite areas.
Hey, you moved away.
I
moved from here.
I know. I just moved from there, and I'm both sad and happy at the same.
And your family is actually one of the founders of the Ybor.
Yeah. So those of you that are going to be going there tonight, my great grandparents emigrated from Sicily, and their names are on the statue there in the city center down in Ybor City, and they helped found the city. My grandfather was on one of the initial Tampa City councils, actually.
You can pronounce their name?
Yeah, Giuseppe and Gaetana Di Arpa. Yeah,
okay.
So they're under the D. It's all alphabetical. So when you get to the D section, you'll see Di Arpa, and it's Giuseppe and Gaetana. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and my name is Scott Law, which is entirely, I'm entirely a paisan, right? But it's Giuseppe Di Arpa, which, is unmistakably Italian or Sicilian. So, well, but anyway, I'm excited. Again, I wish I could be there, and I really hope that you guys, everyone that attends, can celebrate your freedoms that you have, talk about it, get to know one another. I'm looking forward to photos and video, and disseminating that to the 3 people that will be reached over the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
Our content.
Exactly. Yeah, and we don't need to spend time today because we have a lot to do. I like to go through. I love it when you go through some of the more recent posts and comments and things of that nature. But we don't need to do that today, as I need to get prepared for what I'm going to be
tonight. Yeah, tonight. We can pick up maybe tomorrow, and we can talk more about the articles. How does that sound?
And you've got to give me a couple of technology lessons today too, by the way, to help you.
Oh, do I? Yeah, for tonight.
Yeah, you remembered that.
Yeah. There is that, right? Yeah. Can do, and I can get this posted to our podcast, and we can get this going. So, again, I'm excited. I wish I was there. Have a blast tonight, and
yeah, we shall. I feel like I need to say something intelligent or revelatory or groundbreaking here before we close out this particular podcast. And there's really not anything out there to say other than we're still waiting on the final election results. There are legal challenges happening. I refuse to comment on some of the things that I am being sent on a daily basis from our readers. Some of it is incredibly interesting. Some of it is incredibly compelling. Some of the information that is being sent to me and disseminated is coming from unbelievably credible sources.
Correct.
But it is still out there, man. It is still way out there. And I am not ready to cover. Now, if you want to, I'm not going to put it in writing. I'm not going to do it on this podcast yet. And these guys that I find, very credible. They're podcasting this information, and they're writing this information. They're publishing this information, and they're getting deplatformed every single day for so doing. So I'm just going to wait. That doesn't mean that I'm afraid or that I'm scared. If we want to talk about it tonight, we'll talk about it in Pensacola on Thursday. We want to.
And I expect it's going to come up. I mean, it's going to come up from everyone, because the reality is that there's a lot of smoke. And, is it fog, or is it actually coming from a source of fire?
Right.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Scott, I'm excited at the possibility that some of these things are really true, and that they are going to come out in court. I'm excited too. Yeah, and I hate to even admit this, that I'm also excited about the consequences of this coming out, because if there are negative consequences to the extent of cities burning, being looted, blood in the streets, that in itself is going to rattle us into a new place. Now, it'll take us one way or the other. You know, we'll come under more bondage, or we'll reach out and regrasp and retake our freedom back to a certain extent. If certain things go certain ways that I'm hearing about in certain places from certain people, I'll just say that right now. But having said that, I'm equally excited to see what's going to happen, or maybe excited is not the right word. I am very, 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 very compelled to watch closely what happens if this final count or a Supreme Court ruling doesn't go the way of the Trumpites. I'm very interested to see what those 72 to 80 million Americans who voted and now believe that this was stolen from them, how they're going to respond. We know how the left is going to respond if the courts go Trump's way. We already know. They've already shown us this year. They have demonstrated to us implicitly the way they're going to respond. We know exactly what they're going to do.
We've already dealt with it in all these major cities.
Yeah. And it's going to be that times 10. But if it doesn't go the way of the Trumpites, how's that crowd going to respond? Because as a general rule, that crowd respects private property, has no intention of burning down government buildings, has no intention of looting their neighborhood stores. What they're going to do is they're going to wake up the morning after and they're going to go to work because that's what they do. So the question is, how are they going to respond? And that's what is most compelling to me. So we're going to wait and see. So I'm going to talk about this as it unfolds, and I'm going to be on the road long enough on this particular trip that a whole bunch of it is supposed to unfold. We have some hard dates coming up.
Yeah, the elector. That's the 14th, isn't it? The 14th electoral college.
Yeah, and I am hearing that there's going to be very specific, hardcore court presentations that will be taking place after that, because even after the electoral college convenes and casts their votes, there's still nothing that can't be overturned by the courts. I mean, there's precedent, I think, of one particular Senate race that was overturned 2 years after, it was validated by the, their state board and such as that. So, I mean, obviously, if there's a crime and there's fraud, it can be overturned at any time once crime and fraud is proven. So, there are some specific target dates worth watching, but there are no hard dates with regards to the legalities. And the only hard date will be the day that Supreme Court either says we're not going to hear this because there's not enough evidence, or they take it and either reject it or rule, one way or the other, and we see what happens. So I'm going to be out on the road as all of this is taking place. So the more that comes down, the more I'll be willing to talk about it, the more I'll be willing to write about it, the more that possibly you and I can cover from wherever I'm at, as we're doing this thing. In the meantime, as we've already said, please go jump off of Facebook. You can stay there like me, but jump off over, add MeWe and or Parler. We're there. Subscribe to this channel on YouTube. Go to where else are we these days? Oh, all the podcast links. So if you're an audio podcast person and video is not your thing, we're on all the major platforms now, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can listen to it in your car.
Yeah.
Phone. If you're in transit, or you know what, my wife loves to listen to podcasts while she's making dinner or cleaning the kitchen or doing something. Not that she does that all the time. Just, but she listens to it, and my daughters do as well, and I do. So yeah, tune in, and we hope we're going to be entertaining to you, because this there's a lot of scintillating things going on around us, and we have a lot of good thoughts to share, and Steve does in written form, and unfortunately not everyone's getting access to it. So we'll keep pushing all the buttons and all the different platforms, and hopefully that we can connect with people who care about freedom and care about liberty.
And I'm going to close out by pointing out here my daughter's extensive vinyl collection. Of course, that's not all of them, but she's very, very proud of her vinyl collection.
Nice.
And I'm very, very proud of her vinyl collection because it's actually good music. It's not crap.
That's great.
I'm actually Todd Rundgren on the wall there, so she's hip.
Nice. Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, have a blast tonight, and we'll pick this up again soon.
Yes, we shall. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Take care.